Bill, I'm gonna throw it over to you. Are gyms dead?
Thanks, Brent. I appreciate that. Depends who you ask. Fast Company and the Wall Street Journal recently published some material about gyms being dead based on at-home workouts, and their statistics, are a little disheartening from my perspective. 59% of the people not coming back to a gym, based on some of the numbers being thrown around. Ursa says 1 in 4 health clubs may not reopen in 2021. 76% of people have tried working out at home. According to MindBody, 85% have tried streaming. And so you got all this stuff going on right now with people working out at home, can't go to the gym. Are they forming new habits? Will this stick? And from my perspective, we know people are, either intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated. And those that are intrinsically or internally motivated, maybe they're going to form some new habits here. Maybe they're going to get into a routine. But I really have to go back to what I've always known and felt, that people need human connection. People are social creatures. They got to be around other people. If I'm giving a speech, it's totally different than if it's virtual versus live. There's an energy that human beings share when they're present with each other. It causes chemical reactions in the brain, causes us to change our physiology. And that doesn't go away. There's a reason society's evolved as it has, and it's based on people being together, working together to accomplish things. So I think gyms are far from dead. Now, they may be reimagined. They may be a little bit different, and consumers may augment a holistic program where they're working out at home, but they're still going to come and want to spend time with us. We're such great people. Why would they not? I think that there's a lot here in this article and in the press concerning gyms, and people, are forming new habits, uncharted territory. But I think if you are listening to your consumer, listening to the customer, and adapting to their needs, be prepared, because people are coming back. And it may look a little different, but it's going to be potentially even better for the individuals and better for us. And with all these statistics about how great people are doing at home, obesity, depression, isolation, all on the rise. And so something's not working. And I've heard about the COVID-15 and the COVID-20, and I'm not going to tell you what my COVID number is, but I still need to drop a few of it before I go back into normal society. So anyway, that's kind of my take, but I want to hear from my colleagues, Brent.
So can I jump in there on that for a minute? Because Bill, I think you're hitting, there's a couple of core things that aren't going to go away. One, for you to get fit, you have to do the exercise. You can't outsource it. That's always going to happen. It doesn't scale somehow that I can do the exercise and other people are going to get fit. It's a one-to-one deal. And the point about people wanting to get together, those two core things are going to help drive our industry. It's always hard to look at these things, and I keep asking myself, God, am I just biasing myself towards our industry because I'm reading this information and I don't want it to be true? But I don't think so. And if you look at the stuff that people are engaging in and just go through the cost of that equipment that they listed in there, from $1,200 on up to about $4,000 plus a subscription, and to have a variety, to me, I think it is a good way to augment a smart fitness strategy is to have stuff at home. I've always felt that. The gym membership is not a great strategy. It's a great tactic. You got to bundle it with other stuff. And my guess is a lot of that's going to look like group fitness and working with instructors. And
well, Blair, let me throw this in, Sara, before you jump in, just about the group part. In these online streaming programs, there seems to be a sweet spot, and it's also a sweet spot in neighborhoods across America right now. It's these pods of 5 to 10 people, and 6 and 7 seems to be the sweet spot, where people are with a small group of people, a pod of people that they trust and like, and get together. And some of these online equipment solutions are focused in on that. You can be in your group of 5, 6, 7 friends and sharing information, interacting, and getting the shout outs from the instructor, which is helping, fuel a lot of this. So thinking about those small groups, thinking about the feedback, and playing to what the consumer is asking for. Sara, go ahead.
Yeah, but what people are looking for is they're looking for motivation. And when I read the article and they talk about, well, the video and the streaming is motivation, you know what? I can take my computer and I can just close it. And there goes my motivation. I can't even, and I'm a group fitness freak. I can't even watch my workout and just do it. I have my workout on the TV, and then I have my iPad underneath, and my workout is silenced, and I'm following it, but I'm watching Grey's Anatomy or catching up on CNN. Even I can't stay connected. Yes, I spent money. Maybe I spent $1,500 on a Peloton bike. But I'm going to tell you, I worked on QVC for over 12 years selling coat racks. No, I sold fitness equipment. And it's going to happen. People need people. I know, Blair, don't fall over right now or disconnect me. I agree with you. Isn't that a surprise? I think that people need other people, although I do believe our pods might be closer to 4 or 5 folks.
Yeah, well, right on, Sara, exactly. And new home exercise equipment's not new. Having it's one thing, using it consistently is another. So on to our next topic, IHRSA data on Good Morning America. So if some of you missed that, it's been over a week or so. There was a segment on Good Morning America where they referenced some of the data that IHRSA has been collecting about club closures.
Huge hit last year. According to the International Health, Racquet and Sports Club Association, the industry lost nearly $14 billion in revenue since the pandemic began, and an estimated 1/4 of the country's 40,000 fitness facilities could permanently close without financial relief. But Heather and her team got to work on turning TrillFit into
Yeah, so there was a great exposure, if you want to call it that, on Good Morning America, although it's really sad news for our industry. We've done further research since that actually aired, and they got the information. And in partnership with Rick Caro, IHRSA worked on collecting information from 10 of the most prominent payment processing companies in our industry. And what we discovered is that on average, 17% of the clubs had closed as of December 31st, 2020. Breaking that down further, that was about 14% of clubs, more larger box type facilities that we would call health clubs, and studios were at a higher rate of about 19% closures, again, as of December 31st, 2020. Where Good Morning America is getting the 25%, and we may talk a little bit more about this later in the show, is predicting how we're going to fare in this first quarter. We feel like some clubs are probably a little overly optimistic about the return of members off freeze and rejoining. We know that some of them have been anxiously waiting the PPP money to come in and help them move forward. But we also know that there's still a hesitation out in the marketplace, and members are not coming back at the rate that some of those facilities are expecting. So we know that's the case. We also look around the world. Our Italian Federation partner, ANIF, is estimating that 40 to 50% of the clubs in Italy will not reopen. And our Portugal Active, our Portugal Federation partners are saying the same, that 50% of clubs in Portugal expect to be closed. Half of the clubs in those countries not reopening.
I find it really hard to believe that the demand isn't there for more than that once we get to the back half of this year. Now, that to me, that just screams opportunity. And I hate to even use that word right here, because then it's like, you know, who's going to come in here and feed off the dead, right? Somebody's going to come in and eat the dead there. And so when you have probably maybe very little federal help coming, maybe in some of these countries, but there is no way that they had oversupply of that much. And I don't believe we have oversupply of 25%. I think if those numbers are accurate, if those are at all accurate, there's going to be a lot of opportunity as vaccines get more prominent out there, as we get more past 50, 60%. But that's shrinking the market too much, I think.
I agree. I think there's going to be new owners and new managers. Of course, my perspective is America. Okay. I've already seen people open their own facilities now because they move in. The rent is absolutely dirt cheap. The facility's already built out. somebody, it's sad, but we have our tail between our legs and we're running out of the building as fast as we can, not having paid rent, being totally out of business. But what's great is that there are new opportunities out there internationally. I know Japan is just suffering just horribly. Just this morning, I got an email from a chain of 12 clubs, and they're kind of terrified that they're never going to be able to reopen.
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sara and Blair, so I don't have much to add other than, with every crash and situation that we're facing, there evolves an unbelievable, phoenix from the ashes of opportunity. And so, but I think we have to think differently. We got to think differently about our core product. We got to think who we're trying to serve, and we got to approach it not from just our old playbook. Oh, we're back, we're open, let's do the same old thing. There's an increased amount in wellness, medical integration, caring for the whole person, socialization, aspects of isolation as we talked about. It's not just hey, we're going to rent you some fitness equipment, come join us and get a membership card. So I think that you got to be rethinking your business to stay relevant, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, as I talk to people around the world over the last several years, when I was sort of on the speaking circuit, if you will, every place I went to, the club operators would say, we're oversaturated. There's more competition than ever. So I do believe there was a little bit of a course correction that our industry, it's probably healthy that it goes through, as sad as that is, that we might have to say that, but I think that's probably right. Okay, Blair, on to the PPP and the employee retention credit. You and Sara have some information to share about that. It's on everyone's top of mind right now.
Well, I think the first thing we need to think about is the reason for the PPP loan. When the Depression came, there was so many people on unemployment. The government now decided we're not going to let all these people go on unemployment and they never go off unemployment. We're going to help sustain and assist the businesses to stay open so people do not have to go on unemployment. Yes, we have a huge rise in unemployment, but this was the government's way of giving loans. So what they did is they gave a loan to the fitness community at large. It was $284.5 billion were authorized. I wish it was authorized to the fitness industry exclusively, but it's to all small businesses. And what you do is you take 2.5 months of your salary. And what's frustrating is a lot of our small boutique gyms are struggling with that because they don't have salaries. They have all these independent contractors. They don't have employees. So they're not getting enough money. And that's why I think there's a rise or an increase in the boutique studios closing versus larger facilities closing. So what we do we get this loan that's 2.5 months of salary coming in. And how do we get it forgiven? Which means we never have to pay this back. And the cool thing, what they did with this second loan, if you're already got your first loan and you're applying for another one, you can apply for another one. If you haven't applied yet, you can still apply. The money's still there. And they changed things. The best things they did is you can, of course, 60% of that loan you got to use to pay your salaries. Keep those people employed. And then you can use the other part of the money, of course, for your mortgage, your rent, your utilities, but you can also reconfigure your space. You can use a supply of goods that are essential to operate, which means like the plastic, your separation devices, and you can use that money for software and cloud services. So your Zoom or the Microsoft Teams, like we've used, and all the streaming services, like so we can stream our fitness, what's going on in fitness. Now, I know, Blair, you're going to talk about, like, why do restaurants get 3.5 months of salary and we only get 2.5 months?
Right. And so now, and I think what you're saying is that I can use the PPP to buy PPE. So here's the thing. The employee retention credit is going to interact with the PPP. And here's what I mean. If you're looking for forgiveness on your first PPP loan, chances are your bank might have said, well, if you can just submit all salary, all payroll, and get it forgiven, just do that. You shouldn't do that. You want to optimize the other 40% because that's going to cut into what you can get on your employee retention credit. This is complicated. the first thing I'll say is you have to talk to your accountant, but there's a few key things on the ERC. It's based on the quarters in 2020 where you have to be 50% or lower on your revenue in a quarter compared to 2019. Those quarters qualify. It changes in 2021. You only have to be 20% lower, and it's still comparing back to 2019, and it's going to work for the first 2 quarters. I'm not going to go into the details about what percentage of salary in that. It's overly complex. What I'll tell you is that you need to make sure, if you have not filed for forgiveness yet, make sure you look at ERC and how you're going to file for forgiveness so that you can optimize the ERC. I'll summarize it, right? You need to talk to your CPA, RE, PPP1 and PPP2, and ERC ASAP.
Yes. Yeah, well said, Blair. Most of you won't know, my wife is a CPA and has multiple clients, small businesses, and they're getting funded today. The monies are in their account. So if you have not filed for the PPP yet, there's still time to do it, but you need to get on your horse ASAP, as Blair suggests. Bill, you have anything to add before we go to the next topic?
Yeah, that's no BS.
No
okay.
BS. I like it.
No, I'm not gonna jump in on that word game. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Well, let's go on. Blair, I'm gonna throw it back to you again on industry relief. We're talking about PPP, ERC, but what about the broader relief for the industry at large?
Okay.
Where are we on that, and what can you tell people?
This is a big deal, and if you look at it, and it interplays with the PPP and the ERC. Oh Lord, because if this bill that I have here, and I'm gonna channel my best, I'm channeling Perkins at Ursa, and I have to tell you that this is not finalized. The wording is not exact. It should be, I think, by the end of this week or mid next week, and the bill will get its own number. It's called the Gym Mitigation and Survival Act of 2020, or the GYMS Act of 2020. I will say, as both a club owner of 2 clubs in Central Washington and a vendor in the software space, I'm not sure there's anything more important for us to put our relationship capital, political throwaway, everything else behind this bill. So what this would allow, and this isn't just for small businesses, this is for all fitness. Now, you just saw in that piece on Ursa data, $14 billion lost. This carves out $30 billion. This bill won't stand alone. If this gets enough sponsors, it can be put into the new stimulus package, the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. Here's what's important to know. 45% of your 2019 revenue, or $12 million, whichever is less. So you would have to show that you had that trough, and then this would backfill that trough up to that amount. Couple other important things on this. You can use it for just about anything except buying land, lending it out, forward paying on principal, or giving it to a politician. Other than that, you can use it for just about any expense. And I want to make sure I'm feeling Jeff Perkins out there, because he's done so much work on this, but this isn't final. Do the math here. If there's 30,000 health clubs left and there's $30 billion, that's $1 million per club, and it's grants. It's not loans. So in your congressional districts, whatever your congressional districts are, you need to get your Congress people to sign on to the House bill. You need to get your senators, your US senators, sign on to the Senate bill. Yes, nonprofits also, as long as the majority of their revenues coming from fitness. So it won't be country clubs or horse riding or things like that. It's for fitness. Sorry, I probably went a little long on that. Incredibly important that you know who's coming into your gyms, if they are Congress people or senators. Great work, by the way, from the Illinois Fitness Alliance, Gail Landers, and one of the chief sponsors. Oh, one more thing. There's already 20 sponsors on this, both Republicans and Democrats. We need both sides of the aisle. We need every corner of the U.S., and that makes it a lot easier to get through.
Yep.
I have so much
for those listening, if you're just unsure about where to go or how to get started, you know, Ursa, this is something we do. So you can go to ursa.org or email Jeff Perkins at Ursa, and he can tell you who to reach out to in your district and how to reach out to them and who they are.
Okay, I got to, Frank Hancharski's asking this question. Is there any industry relief for the industry supplier vendors partners? I think that's going to come in the form of the broader relief bill that other types of businesses will qualify, because I know at MXM we qualified, you know, in other aspects. But I'll tell you this, Frank, if this passes and all those clubs get that money, that grant dropped into their account, that's going to be a huge bounce back for every vendor and supplier in our industry. That's why I'm really pushing vendors and suppliers to use their political throw weight to go in and support gyms. The vendors and suppliers have to be on top of this. That'll bounce our industry back faster than almost anything.
Yep. Bill, Sara?
The one thing I would say is, and not to put a damper on this, but you know, that's kind of my job. I worry about the lobbying effort. I think the reason the restaurants made it, I think the reasons hotel made it, they had a centralized lobbying effort going on in DC. And if we keep separating by those, there's a majority of almost 10 states, I think, that are really involved with the alliances. We can't stay 50 separate states. We've got to get it together, and we've got to get a stronger centralized lobbying effort.
Well, I think that's true, but it's still going to come down to phone calls you make in your state. Like I've got to call, you know, our congressperson from the 12th district, Kim Schreier, and ask her to get on this bill. It will come down. Our lobbyist was pretty clear that we've got to have a spread out effort of people. You're going to be able to click the button with Ursa and send letters in. That will create awareness, but it's going to be the effort of getting on the phone, inviting people into your clubs, vendors calling. It's got to be those personal connections. And I know you have some around Chicago, Sara.
Yeah, that's right. And the National Health and Fitness Alliance that Ursa has created is that very vehicle. So make sure you're supporting that as well. Okay, but Bill. Wow, big news about Peloton. Peloton purchased Precor here recently. I know you've got some information about that. That was big news, and people are wondering what that means for our industry.
Yeah, let me jump right on that, Brent. But one other thing on Sarah's point with Blair there, as they were going back and forth, every voice needs to be heard. We're not as big as restaurant industry, but we need to get everybody under one umbrella working together and be heard. And because we are sizable when you look at all the manufacturers, when you look at all the nonprofits, when you look at all the other aspects that sometimes aren't included in some of the communications, you know, coming from the private sector. So your voice needs to be heard, and we can make a difference. So to the big news, yeah, $420 million in cash, a cash purchase. That's a big deal. So, you know, Precor is owned by Amerisports, and that's owned by a lot of different investors, including some in China. And so $420 million cash offer. They can afford it easily. They got $250 million in revolver. They got $2 billion on their balance sheet. I mean, this was not a big acquisition or a big stretch for them to be able to pull this off. What does it mean for us as an industry? Well, one, Peloton was having trouble keeping up with demand. They were having trouble keeping up with manufacturing, production, and demand. And personally, I know a lot of people that have experienced not so great of an experience with the Peloton bike from a hardware perspective. I don't find many people that don't like the software and the program and the engagement, but the bike has not gotten all the best reviews in the world. So from a demand standpoint, Precor has capacity in their massive factories right now because commercial fitness equipment is in a little bit of a slump based on closures and operators not buying equipment. So Precor's got capacity to produce and manufacture. Peloton's got huge demand that needs to be filled, and so that's a big deal. So it affects our industry from a demand perspective. It also expands the commercial sector, the commercial market. Peloton had over 100 engineers focused on research and development. Those folks are now working on Precor products as well. That information is going to be shared from an R&D and industry perspective. So you're going to see an expansion of technology with regard to the commercial market sector. And so you got all that working together. So I think it's a brilliant acquisition. I think it's a strong manufacturing play. I think it makes both companies much better. I think they're going to get every penny's worth out of that acquisition, and it doesn't put the company in a hardship position. Investors are very bullish on this whole deal.
And you saw how forward-looking, the stock went right after the announcement of that acquisition. I mean, people are now pricing Peloton out there about a year. There is I don't know, you call it a chat board or something like that with about 9,600 people on it complaining about their Peloton deliveries. As a Peloton consumer, we have one here in the office and I've got one at home. I am a fan of Peloton. I'm also a big fan of the gyms because I'm in the gym every damn day. And I think the bike has been outstanding. Where I've not seen the bike hold up quite as well, Bill, and I think this is where Precor is going to help them a lot, is in a more, like in a separate channel, like in the hospitality channel. And Precor does such a great job in hospitality that I think Peloton is going to probably be able to spread out more in hospitality that way. And they'll probably learn a lot from Precor about seat adjustments and that can hold up to kind of more, higher use than one or two people today.
I wonder.
You hit on a strong point about the bike and the backlog. Go ahead, Sarah.
I wonder about the consolidation. Whenever a company buys another company, they dump half the accounting. They consolidate the marketing. Whatever they do. I wonder. I know there were some sales staff I'm good friends with, and they were wondering, oh my God, am I going to lose my job? And I'm like, nope, you're not losing your job, man. They're going to keep these companies separate, I believe, very separate as far as strategic planning. And they're just going to support each other with manufacturing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Motley Fool, that's their take on it too. They'll be running separate organizations with separate leadership. And I also think, side note, this may affect the value of SoulCycle and their bike and their virtual program with regard to who they partner with and what they do, because that they're using the what's the bike they're using, Sarah? SoulCycle, the Stages, right?
Stages.
The Stages.
And they used to use Twin and they switched to Stages.
Yeah, Stages, which is an excellent product.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. The minute they announce that they've got their delivery time, the minute that starts to shrink, the minute they can announce we're down to 4 weeks, because it's a horror show out there right now. And I feel bad for them because they've been a great company. I really admire their CEO. I admire how they've gone about their business. Right. It's a tough road for them here right now.
Yeah, well, I texted Rob Barker, who's the CEO of Precor, the night the deal was announced. And of course, he said, oh, Brent, you wouldn't believe I've been working on this for months and months and months in silence without letting anybody know about it. So of course he was really excited and feels like it's really a, win-win, not only for Peloton, but also for Precor.
Yeah.
As Bill largely pointed out, it's a good thing for both those parties, I think, going ahead.
Yeah, kudos to them. It is interesting, like doing anything in a publicly traded company. Yeah, you have to be quiet. That's stuff you can go to jail for, right? I mean,
yeah, he did a good job. I mean, even his lieutenants in the company had no idea.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
I remember.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to throw it over to you. Australian trends, and what's the topic there? I know that we're talking about really personal training and Group X.
All right. So I call my friends in Australia and we're chatting about, I actually think I had them on a webinar, and they are having a huge shortage getting instructors to come back and trainers to come back, because you're talking 10 months. Gyms have been closed. Open, closed, open. Oh, great. Group X is open. 10 people can participate. So I look at this, and we had to pivot and perish really, really quickly at the beginning of the pandemic. And all the group fitness people, okay, my people, all the group fitness people are so generous and great communicators. They went right on Facebook, right on Zoom, giving away free, and it was amazing. But what you have to remember is these people lead. They lead for a living, and they're our front lines. And they don't know Blair. They don't care about Blair. They see Blair's instructors. Nobody loves you anymore, Blair. They see the instructors out there on chill out, Bill, on Facebook, and they see them on Instagram, and they're watching their stories, and they're watching free workouts. And then the instructors got smart and started charging for it. So your best instructors are out there going, I can lead, I can charge, I'm not stupid, and I'm going to get going. Now, when the gym's open, you'll get your second run and your third rung instructors, because your first ones, I'm going to tell you right now, a huge business owner in this industry lost his group fitness manager. She opens her studio. She's already making $67K a year, streaming 20 classes a week, and she's got employees. That Wall Street Journal article, you look, oh goodness, Kara Liotta. She was the creative director and the trainer for Flywheel in New York. And now she's got 500 members. Okay, and that person making, 60, 70, 80 grand has 400 members. A friend of mine opened a gym, just walked in, cheap rent, big space, 6 feet apart, and is doing it. He's making almost 80 grand a year. These instructors are smart. And if you guys, as club owners, as club managers, stay in touch, I'm all excited. My finger's getting closer to the camera. Stay in touch with them, stay connected with them. We need them. We need our frontline workers, and they're going to bring people back because they're our communicators, they're our connectors, and they're our leaders.
And I think,
hey, two things.
Go, Bill.
I got my medallion report right here. Shows that Blair's net promoter score is still well above everybody else's. Sara, you're right. The fitness professionals, trainers, instructors, group fitness, all of those first line providers, they're our secret sauce. And we've spent so much time as an industry on sales, marketing, operations. And we've learned through this pandemic, it is those people that control our businesses and our relationships. And you are right on. And they have, learned they've got to take care of themselves. They've got to be self-reliant. They've got to take care of their families. They've got to do their thing. And we need to partner with them and hug them and make sure they're appreciated. And we work with them like never before. And I hope operators learn that lesson through this pandemic, because that's one of the big takeaways, that your frontline people are the key to your success, period. And the fitness expertise is something that I think sometimes people have taken it for granted.
Right. And our down under friends, we don't want to end up down under. Okay. We want to, take a clue, look at the different countries that are reopening and see what's happening to them, and just be aware.
I'll say this, the good news from Australia and New Zealand is that gyms are back open and people are flooding into the gyms. They've had a hard time bringing some of their employees back. To Sarah's point, 10 months. The longer you've been closed, the fewer employees you're likely to get back. My clubs have been closed for 9 months. That also what Sara and Bill were both saying. It's one thing, I work out every morning at 5 a.m. in one of our clubs. And when you're short staffed and it's just your front desk person, you start to think like, who's communicating our values and our brand? It's just the front desk person at that touch point. So today we had 2 trainers in there this morning, and the general manager and the front desk person. It started to feel more like our type of gym again, because to their point, your values and your purpose have to be communicated through those people. How they think about customer experience, how they think about energy, that gets communicated through them. And without them, it's much harder to have that energy.
And it's that connection. And as the personal trainer and the group fitness instructor, I got their email. I got their cell phone. I'm a friend of theirs on Facebook, and I can message them. And they're our connectors, and we've got to stay connected to our members.
Great advice. And I know there are some clubs out there that have partnered with their trainers, if you will, that are doing in-home. So they're now putting that as one of their services and providing the insurance coverage and the ability to do that as well, working together. Great insight, everybody. Okay, Bill, the Apple Watch and Fitness Plus, what are these wearables, and particularly the Apple Watch, what is that impact going to be on our industry, and how should we view that?
Yeah, I mean, Brent, you and I have been involved in some conversations with Apple, with the Ursa team, and Apple Watch is the #1 wearable, in the U.S., if not the world, and by far, hands down, #1. And the statistics show that it also has the highest retention rate. And so a lot of news going on in this wearable space. Still one of the top top trends that Sarah's going to talk to us about, I'm sure, when she goes over some trend information. But Google just bought Fitbit for what, $2.1 billion? And so Apple's got the health kit. You know, they've got the Apple Fitness program, which set the parameters on, you know, virtual pricing with the less than $10 a month program. But the Apple Watch is a brilliant device. And now that it connects with the manufacturer's fitness equipment, so Apple's now embedded the connections with all the manufacturers of equipment. It might not be in your equipment in your club today, but when you buy the next round, it surely will be. And so your watch will be able to connect with equipment. My big thing about wearables and technology in general, you know, I've talked to Brian O'Rourke and Blair and a lot of other people that pay attention to the technology space. Technology for technology's sake, because it's cool, is absolutely worthless. You know, it's a game, right? Technology's got to solve a business problem or a personal problem. It's got to solve a problem for an individual. And the Apple Watch does that. It solves a lot of problems. I'm wearing a dress watch today, but normally I've got my Apple Watch on. I've got meetings today and threw this thing on with the jacket to try and impress Sara and Blair on this call here. I'm trying to keep up with these guys. I've given up on keeping up with Brent. But it does so much functionality, and the fitness applications on the watch are so great. And it's a three-legged stool. If you can combine now the member with the facility / the industry and the technology company, now you've got three things working together in a holistic manner versus the technology company going straight to the consumer, leaving the industry out of it. And we've been left out of a lot of conversations because we've either had our head in the sand, or we're too small, or they just went direct because they didn't understand how to cooperate and work with us. But we're having an opportunity now with Apple and some of these other companies to be a part of that three-legged stool, to really embed that holistic approach with the consumer, with our live in-person programming, with digital feedback, at-home activity, and so on. So again, I'm bullish on Apple working with clubs on the Apple Connect program. They have a division set up to help start do this. This will help our industry, but we got to pay attention. We got to understand that Apple creates platforms and people build the apps on those platforms. And I think we've got a lot of opportunity here with wearables. And I think this is really great what Apple's doing. Brent, you're very close to it. So why don't you opine next before we give it to the other panelists?
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I took away from my conversation with the people from Apple about the Apple Watch was just how it's really helping change behaviors, right? When you talk about the efficacy and sticking with an exercise program, people want to, for those familiar with the Apple Watch, they want to close those circles, right? Those mood circles, and they want to make sure that that's accomplished. And even things as small as that can have an impact on whether somebody exercises or how much they exercise. And so as we really look at that 78% of the population that's outside the gym, you know, we need to embrace, you know, technologies and anything else like this that can help get people moving, whatever that is, right?
In fact, I think that is a key piece of how people are going to build exercise habits. Now, my dad is 93. He already actually comes into the gym, you know, back into the gym now that we're open. And he's not going to embrace an Apple Watch. But I do see so many more people that have not maybe used wearable technology starting to use it. And I think it's a key piece for more easily creating exercise habits. I'm a big fan of MyZone. I use MyZone all the time. I think today was my 1,500 and something consecutive day of exercising, and it makes a big difference to me. That makes a big difference to me. So I see this as a huge opportunity to help accomplish the purpose of our industry. And the purpose of our industry should be to help people create exercise habits across our industry. If we were focused on that and we leveraged everything we could and created strategies for our customers instead of just selling a membership, well, this is a piece of that.
And I view MyZone as complementary to the iWatch. They're not exclusive devices in what they provide. And so this isn't an either or kind of deal.
Right. Sara?
And that's what needs to happen is, you know, where Bill started was it's got to solve a problem. A product has to have a solution. And for me, I can just press a button and find my watch, okay? I can find my phone and it dings. And that's my huge problem solver. But then the other thing we need to do is people are terrified of, how am I going to use this? So as a club owner, what I would really encourage you to do is embrace technology, because yes, you know, I know we're going to talk about this next. ACSM, number 1, online training. Number 2, wearable technology. But what we have to think about is how our consumer's going to perceive it. And one thing that we learned at SCW the hard way was we needed to train people even how to download Zoom, how to get an email and check their spam folder. We created these elaborate little YouTube videos to train people how to use things. So if you're going to embrace this technology, which I'm sorry, you don't have a choice. You have to, you jump on board, get MyZone, get a Fitbit, work with Apple. You have to. It's a cost of doing business at this point, but solve the problem by training them how to use the product.
Right. So Sara, just keep on going, girl. You got it going. You already referenced ACSM trends, and that's our next topic that we've got to move to. So no more comments. We're on a 5-minute.
I gotta let Blair. Okay, Blair, you get 30 seconds.
Just remember, Clayton Christensen said, no one ever bought a product or service. They only hire a product or service to do a job better, cheaper, or faster than they can themselves. You got to think of the job to be done. What are you hiring the product or service to accomplish? And this does, the technology is worth hiring.
I love my team. That was Mike Lieber, one of our creative department from SCW, created that video. And I just thought it was fascinating. I love ACSM guidelines. I'm going to dodge some of Bill's bullets here, but I always get amazed by the top 10 trends from ACSM. It ends up in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, People Magazine. And we follow this and we live by this. And I get it. I get it. Online training, wearable technology, body weight training, outdoor activities, HIIT training. These are trends. They're key. They're important. I get it. Those are the top 5. But who are the respondents? I'm going to tell you, 20% are personal trainers, 20% are academicians, college professors, students, etc. 14%, if you add them all up, are owners, managers, and directors. And only 4% are group exercise leaders. So I'm going to kind of say, this is leading our industry for academia, for personal trainers. It's very insightful for the ACSM guidelines. I'm going to, trends. What I'm also going to tell you though, for SCW, we've analyzed approximately the same number of people. And what we found is number 1 was active aging. Number 2 was functional training. Number 3 was nutrition. Then we had strength training. Then we had core training. Then we had HIIT. So for group exercise, it wasn't as much of what technology and online and what's going on. It's what programming we're going to offer. So I think that's interesting. If you're looking at trends, you own a club, you're a trainer, you're a group fitness teacher, what am I going to do? Because the SCW, we have approximately, we had people check all that apply when they gave us their numbers. 74% were Group X people, 60% were personal trainers, and 27% were owners and managers. So what I would say is, if you want to look at the Group X trends, then you look at SCW. If you want to look at personal training and academicians and maybe owners and managers, you look at ACSM. Love them both. Use them both. They're both valuable.
Yeah, actually, it would be fun to look at the two lists side by side too, by the way.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
We'll do it next month.
Yeah, I mean, the aging piece was on both of them. I was trying to kind of, compare, but the active aging piece I know was on both lists, right?
Absolutely. Functional training, though, I think, ACSM picked 41 things to choose from. And I just read the top 10, okay? The limit was 41. And who picks those 41? It didn't say active aging. We, in the Group XC world, I guess we say active aging. And they called it older adult fitness, which might be distinct as well. And I'm not saying the SCW, we just redid our list that we're submitting to people to get our Survey Monkey. I think this, I'd like to say we're perfect, but we're not, it's just, we're trying to pick these 41 things for people to choose from. And okay, here we go, Bill. And it's the editors came up with that list of 41.
Yeah. So yeah, you make some good points there. And there's other lists out there that are a little more appropriate even for operators and club managers, because there's nothing on, it's all Group X and personal training and programming. And frankly, from one year to the next, y'all kind of move them around, but they don't change that much. To be honest, if you look at broader pictures, like what the Global Wellness Institute is sharing, they're talking about mental health and getting back to nature and strengthening the immune system. I think those are things that some of our audience want to hear about, in addition to all the programming advice as well.
I'm sorry. One of the most interesting thing we found, though, with our certifications, like which ones people are taking, we have this, through the pandemic, we have a huge surge in people taking our meditation certification.
Sure. Yeah, mindfulness is big. So we're down to our last topic of the quick sessions here, the Henry Ford Health System study. You may have missed this. It's not in a huge press release in some of the major periodicals out there, but it was featured in the Mayo Clinic proceedings, as you see here. You probably would, not enjoy reading all the detail behind this research, but researchers looked at over 1,000 COVID positive patients who had previously undergone an exercise stress test on a treadmill. And what they discovered, no surprise, obviously, to all of us, is that those people who were in better aerobic shape were far less likely to be hospitalized due to COVID-19. Now, we've known, and many of us have been preaching for years, that being healthy and fit and aerobically in shape increases your immunity from all sorts of diseases and colds and everything else. It is good to see there's some research out there that ties it very directly to COVID-19 about not having to be hospitalized with it. And there's also information and surveys out there and studies suggesting that if you do contract COVID, the higher fitness level that you have, the more likely you are to recover faster and suffer from less symptoms overall. So there's great information out there that sort of supports the efficacy that we all keep preaching about. Hey, be active, be in shape.
I heard Coach Boeheim from Syracuse, right, talking on, he'd been interviewed on ESPN, and I don't know where he got his information. It was probably about a month and a half ago, and he had said, and I would like to know where he got this and if this is on or not. He said of all the COVID cases contracted in the NC2A across all sports and in professional sports, 100% had recovered 100%. Now, I don't know how true that is or if it's still true, but it was an interesting data point at the time that kind of speaks to this. This, to me, is a platform for messaging, and as we see the narrative changing outside our industry, as we start to see this narrative changing, I think this becomes a platform, and perhaps you know, if people see this pandemic as the health crisis of a century, and if exercise can protect you from the health crisis of a century, it sure as hell ought to help me with a cold, right? I mean, I see this as a potential, you know, I think this has some legs that we could ladder off of this for some messaging for across the industry.
But what I also worry about is in 1919, we had the Spanish flu, and in the 1920s, we had the roaring 20s. Everybody ran out and started doing things. They're going to come back to the club. And how many hundreds of, oh my God, what are we up to now? Anybody know how many people have had COVID?
In the U.S., I think it's just over 400,000, 450,000 or something.
Yeah, but they're going to come back to the clubs.
Well,
we're going to have to deal with this. Develop a program, a post-COVID recovery, post-COVID rehabilitation. That might be a great profit center. Bill, sorry.
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh no, it was 400,000 deaths. The cases is what, Blair?
Is that what are the cases in the U.S.? I thought it was 400,000.
I think it's 400,000. It's over 400,000 at this point.
Yeah.
25 million cases, I think, million cases, I think it's worldwide.
I bet there's some place we could look that data up.
Yeah, no, somebody's putting it 400,000 deaths.
The one thing
that's what I said. 400,000 deaths, guys.
They're dead. They're not coming back.
That's what I was trying to say.
25 million cases in the U.S. Yeah, 400,000 deaths. Thank you, Bruce.
But that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, the deaths are. But,
yeah.
You know,
and that begs the question about, you know, BMI, and also those people that have other conditions that recover from COVID might have different needs with regard to respiratory illness and so on that we still don't quite understand all of, that are going to require different programming and different standards of care with regard to how we bring those people back up to optimal fitness levels. So understanding COVID's effect on the body is important for our industry from a subject matter position to be able to serve people.
Yes, and we have to be very careful. My son is getting his PhD in bioinformatics, and he studies viruses. And he says there's another virus out there that they're looking at that's 7 times as deadly and as rapid as COVID. And this is not going away. These viruses, these type of viruses are not going away. So to Blair's point, if we can keep our industry and stick with prevention by keeping individuals healthy, whether it's your respiratory system from this virus or another system that's under attack by another virus, we just have to keep people healthy.
I think to my friend Neil Simpson, who's asked about, who's asked a couple of questions here. I think a topic we should have upcoming would be about sort of future-proofing our industry and your location against the next pandemic, whether it comes or not, right? I mean, that might be a great topic for us to tackle.
Yeah, very good. Okay, Blair, I know we wanted to wrap up the segment for the hour with a little bit of a bet that we've talked about internally. You want to set the stage for that? That's
right. So, Christine, it's time for our good timing. This is our ABC Fitness Solutions has a great dashboard about kind of the bounce back. And so this is our, I went in, looked at ABC's data, and what we're going to do is each week, each of us have to select an over-under. So I get to set the over-under. The data point we're going to use is across ABC's portfolio of 8,100 clubs, and that's clubs that they know not to be closed or not closing permanently. 8,100 clubs. As of December 31st, 81% of clubs had reopened. 19% had not. By our next show, whenever they update their data, they do it about every 4 weeks. So we'll take their updated data by our next show. I'm setting the over-under. I have to remember when I set it out on my whiteboard. I'm setting the over-under at 84.5 by the next show. So for each of you, over or under, we'll keep track of this. We'll figure out a way who wins as we go through each month at URSA in September. So, Bill, go.
Are you saying, no, you got to explain over under. There's a
I
lot of
selected
chicks
it because it's the easiest bet to understand. There's a total. The total is 84.5. So by the next
percent of clubs that will be reopened by our next show.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
So Blair says the over-under is 84.5% of clubs will be open by next show. And we have to go around and say if we think it's going to be over the 84.5 or under the 84.5. And I say it's over 84.5, Blair. So put me down as over.
Okay, Bill's got the over. You're going last, Sara.
Over too. I'm over.
Yeah, okay.
I'm as a hockey mom, 4 boys and a husband. I live in a household of men. Had no idea what over under is, but I'm going under.
You're going under.
Yeah.
Okay. I would have not. I was going to take, because I did this a few days back. I was going to take the under until I saw that California is starting to open clubs back up. So they've moved some of this. They've moved some of the counties around. It looks like, or they're rolling back to what the other county descriptions were. I was going to take the under on that. Actually,
what's important is what are you taking, not this long-winded explanation of how that mind works of yours.
And you got to clarify. Is this clubs that are that were clubs in existence prior to COVID? Does this include new facilities that are going to open?
Oh, who cares, Sara? You're under. Christine says yes. So Christine from ABC just said yes. It includes new clubs too.
And it includes new clubs. You know what? I'll stick with under. Somebody's got to be different. You boys just hang together.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Blair. So for those of you that are interested, what we've decided to do as part of this show is give you an opportunity to interact and ask questions and have an after chat. So if you'd like to stick with us, we're going to be here for the next 15 minutes until 15 minutes after the hour. We're right at the hour exactly right now. So thank all of you for tuning in. Hopefully you found it a little different than your typical webinar. You got some good information. You heard about some of the top news in our industry. Our next show is February the 15th at the same time. No, February 17th. I'm sorry. Yeah, February 17th. Same exact time, same day. So we hope you'll join us again next month. Thanks for joining us, and we'll hope you stay with us for the after chat for the next 15 minutes.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We got a ton. Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, no. I was just, I'm just really excited about ABC and their product suite and the data that they're providing our industry. And so I'm anxious to be declared one of the winners on the over bet.
Awesome. Yeah, we got a ton of questions too. So what I'm going to try to do here, I'm Christine Ulatowski. I'm the education manager for URSA. I'm going to try to prioritize based on hotness of the topic, I think. And what I'm going to do is throw the question to Brent, and Brent will either answer it himself or choose to throw it to one of you. So I think we should start with the question around the vaccine and how that would affect our industry. What are your thoughts on how the vaccine is going to affect our industry?
Well, Bill has the most connections with the medical community, having managed a lot of clubs that are medically oriented. Bill, take it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much information that the general consumer doesn't have. I do a lot with Providence St. Joseph Health. They're very excited about their rollout of vaccinations in the Pacific Northwest and in California in their major markets. I think it's going to have a big impact on the comfort level for those, especially with other conditions. And I'm very excited about that. I'm timing my rebound predictions on the vaccination schedule, and I've been telling people in my organization that I really expect us to start having some significant improvements in performance, you know, end of second quarter, beginning of third quarter, once we get more and more out. But here in Arizona, they're doing teachers now. They've already done the retirement communities. So, you know, they're gradually figuring this thing out. And we all heard, I think everybody's heard yesterday, there was another, was it 200 million or 300 million vaccinations ordered by the United States government.
300 million, yeah.
So that would give you a 60,000 that would give you over 600,000 in surplus for adult coverage if you didn't lose any to spoilage and so on. So, and they're also getting really close to approving the vaccination for children, which will come probably before the end of the year. So I think that we'll rebound before the vaccination is across the board, but we'll get further bounce once it's getting to that critical mass number.
Yep.
I wonder who's going to come back to the
next topic. Is one, anecdotally, there's vaccines that are happening around the country, and some of the club operators have reported to me that some of their members that were the healthcare workers and have recently got the vaccine immediately almost came back off of freeze and reactivated their membership. So I mean, it's a small sample set, but it's showing right up front the first group that's getting the vaccines is coming back, which is a good trend. And there are also a lot of clubs that are offering their sites, their parking lots and their clubs as vaccination locations. So if you want to look into that, clubs that are set up for that.
I'll also go on record saying I believe in the vaccination and I want to get mine as soon as I'm available to.
Yeah, I went through all the cancellation data, right? Cancellation feedback right before this, and about a third of the people that are still canceling say COVID or the pandemic is why. So I do think that this is going to be a huge benefit to us as it rolls out there, and I think that's people are fighting that band of memberships that are on freeze, and I hope the vaccine gets rolled out fast, because it is that, I think that's what's going to thaw that out the fastest.
Right.
And I think, Blair, was from some of your statistics that said young men were the first ones to come back into the gym. And now, since older adults, if you're 65 plus, if you're the healthcare workers, the 65 plus are beginning to get all their vaccinations. And they're seeing that they are coming back, except some of the media is just blasting about, different virus strains and rebound effects and things like that. But the older adults, I think we'll see a surge of them returning to the gyms.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, Christine, what's next?
Well, I think also from a communication standpoint, you need to know what percentage of your market's got the vaccination, what your caseload is. Those are good messages, even with your staff, building confidence internally.
Great point. Yep.
Yeah. Let's go back to the industry relief bill, because we did get a question from Lynn. She says she's a part of a park district facility. So any insight, maybe, I think this is more so for Blair. I believe that was your topic.
Yeah. And again, some of this language could change, but it does not say it is for profit only at all. It just calls out.
It's available to not-for-profits. And profits. I mean, if you pay, because again, the focus is to keep people employed. It's just that park districts have a particular pain point, I should say, that a lot of their employees end up being independent contractors. So they may not be getting as much of as big a loan as they might, as a for-profit facility that has all of their staff as employees.
So far, and again, I've got to channel Jeff Perkins on this from Ursa. This is not final language, but the eligible entity means a fitness facility, A, which provides instruction in a program of physical exercise or offers space for the preservation, maintenance, encouragement, or development of physical fitness. B, which does not offer golf, hunting, sailing, or riding facilities. C, where the health or fitness component of which is not incidental to its overall function and purpose, and which is not part of a state or local government facility. So yeah.
And again, as Blair's reiterated multiple times, we're just still in the development process of exactly what that's going to look like. So
and looking at whether or not a park district comes under the umbrella of being a governmental business.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it is.
Really?
No.
Really? I think it's a service.
And we should take that back to Jeff and see about.
Parks and Rec are usually controlled by the city council and the mayor's department, the city department, governmental. So you're going to have to talk to.
No, I'm going to ask my husband. My husband is an SBA expert. It's frightening. He's got this cell phone number of the head of the SBA. It's frightening. I'll check on that.
Awesome.
Great. I want to go back to the Precor Peloton purchase too, because somebody asked about the indoor cycling community and maybe the direct impact that could have on indoor cycling specifically. For example, Spinning, who used Precor as their bike manufacturers. This is the words of the person that submitted the question. So I'll let you guys dissect that.
So Sara, you're the Group X guru on the panel here. What do you think? How's Peloton bike and buying Precor going to affect the indoor cycling community?
Well, I will tell you, the Peloton bike and their classes that you can watch on that bike are phenomenal. The cinematography is beautiful. The music is fantastic. The instructors are terrific. But it still doesn't replace a live person who's going to tell you about, her 4 children that played travel hockey, or the 93-year-old father that's going to the gym. You connect with these people. I do believe all of our gyms are going to have a Peloton in them, because then I can do a cycle program whenever, wherever. But one thing that they've discovered in health clubs is when you have that virtual studio, a lot of times those virtual studios where you can just pick a video you want to watch, they sit empty. It's good for off hours, great for off hours. But if I can take a class, man, I'm taking a class. So I'm gonna over under this, and I'm gonna say that I think indoor cycling, you rock it, instructors, and you keep going. Sorry, Blair, go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of the value pieces that Peloton provides to the instructor, imagine them providing that in a cycling studio. Because when I first rode Peloton, this is back when 100 people in a class was a lot, and I said, "Oh my God, they're engaging with 100 people in the room. They're doing a better job engaging than we are, because they have the information in front of them and can say, Sara, a shout out for your 100th ride. Way to go on." And they can talk about, and I mean, why would they not combine that type of intelligence? Imagine how much better that is. Because I have this belief about fitness and most B2C businesses and technology's role. I think technology's role should be doing a few things. I think it should be making the human-to-human connection better. Like, how does it help us create a better human-to-human connection? And I also think technology should be constantly seducing an organization to do a better and better job with their customer experience and with how they lead and manage. Great technology should do those things. So
and competition makes everybody better. The question is the technology going to transform that coat rack? Okay, and that's what we have to think about. That's the question.
I'm thinking it more like, can that technology transform my cycling studio more to where it's not necessarily all those bikes, out in front of me, but it's my bike as the instructor. I know everybody who's in there, how long, how often they come in, which class they're on. I can do shout outs that I couldn't otherwise do without that data sitting in front of me. It seems to me like there's some opportunity to bring that technology into gyms to make the live experience that much more engaging.
Yeah, but the only thing I would argue on that point is the big brother aspect of opting in and not opting in, not from a reason of just privacy, but we've all gotten form letters that pretend to know certain things about us. And, the fact that it's my 100th ride and the fact that you have a data sheet on me isn't as personal as you really know me as a person. And,
No.
What? No, but you know what I'm saying? So there's got to be a blend of data with personalization and real true knowledge and caring of the.
That's what technology.
Yeah,
Technology should enhance that. Yep.
But on the virtual stuff, sometimes I'm using data from a data point of view. You know, I give you a shout out, 100th class, Blair, way to go. Maybe it's your first class with me. Maybe I don't know you at all. To me, it's more meaningful when I come into your class and you say, hey, Bill, how was your weekend? I missed you on Friday. You know, because you know me and you know my personal interest. And the technology can't replace the personal emotional connection. It can augment it with some information that's usable, but we're not gonna outsource emotional connection, right? And so I just, you know, and I just want to keep that in the mix of using data to personalize.
Bill's right. Bill's right, because people are zooming out already. They're getting sick of it. My kids, they hate college online. They're just like, one of them doesn't even, well, one of them I think never wanted to go back, but they don't want to go back. You know, it's fun and exciting at first, but it just diminishes. It is not that, you know,
you guys don't seriously think that that's not my viewpoint, right?
I know your viewpoint is not that. I was expanding upon the emotional part of the data. I was not contradicting your position. I'm in the data as well. Oh,
it's
no.
Good.
No.
The technology should help us make better human connections. That's what technology.
What's the old saying? I thought Blair was wrong once, but it turns out I was mistaken.
I want to go to one more question because we are coming down to the end of this 15-minute segment here. But Jeff had made the suggestion with this Apple Fitness, the Apple Watch and Fitness Plus, possibly making that a part of memberships. But what are the legalities associated with that?
Well, we had a little
discussion
about something like that with Apple Watch and how that might work. You know, they're developing some programs around being able to earn an Apple Watch. And Bill and I actually had a discussion with Jay Blondie at Ursa about working with corporate wellness programs and about how they might conceivably provide employees with a watch that would track all their activity and produce outcomes and hopefully, you know, motivate behaviors that were very positive. But, you know, there's a health equity component perhaps as a part of that equation. You know, can you really distribute that out? And then if people don't earn it, then you've locked them into the payment for the watch. So, you know, I think it's conceivable, but there's some things to think through. Whether it's legal or not, I'm not the person to answer that.
Christine is saying that Lifetime's already doing that they are blending it in with membership.
I saw that.
So are they requiring their staff to purchase a watch? I'm going to look at the staff aspect. First of all, if you've got a job description, you got a job description. You have to change your job description, almost have people reapply that they have an Apple Watch. And that's okay to have as a requirement. But as a member, is that what you're talking about? That a member has to purchase an Apple?
No, I think the question was more about selling an enhanced membership that includes,
what's the legality? And I think there's going to be privacy issues.
It's privacy,
and so it's privacy is the big issue. And in the corporate fitness market, that's even a bigger issue because you might have the employer as the client and they have a relationship with the employee, which is different from a membership relationship with a fitness center. So privacy is the issue, different state laws, and you've got biometric privacy, you've got HIPAA, you've got BIPA, you got general privacy, you know, you got PCI compliance on financial privacy, you know, so privacy is the big issue. Oh, but excuse me, Sara is our lawyer, our in-house counsel here.
Well, but I don't think, I'm going to guess on this point and just make a very, very well-educated guess. But I'm going to say that I don't think it's a privacy issue. I think you can opt in and then you can sign a release. The same way you sign a release that you can take my photo, you can take my image, you can, you know, I can put Blair's head on top of Brent's body, which probably would be an upgrade, but we can, you know, we can alter videos and photos. And I know. Yeah.
I don't know which one you insulted, but I think you might have insulted both.
It was Blair. But So I think you can release that. I also think if anybody in this world really thinks that there is any privacy, they're kidding themselves.
Yeah, but just on your point, you can give away your privacy rights, but you still can't change the compliance issues. Some data you can only hold for 3 years, and you've got to purge it, and
That's
how
true.
you hold data. So
That's
there's
true.
other aspects, but
And
But
also,
I can release that.
there's also a difference between Apple Fitness Plus, which is sort of a subscription service that gives you access to things, and the Apple Watch, as far as selling it as a different thing. So more than we can get into probably here, since
Right.
we're at our limit at this point. So want to thank all of you again for joining us today. Thanks, Christine, for handling the question. Thanks, my colleagues. Again, we're going to be back on February the 17th for the next edition of Talks and Takes. Appreciate y'all staying on and asking the questions and tuning in with us. Hope we found it at least a little entertaining and highly informational. And we'll see you in about a month.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
thank you. Bye, everybody. See you guys.